This video will introduce the very basics of the heart. If you think about it, the heart is an amazing organ. Unlike other organs that can kind of slow down and not have to be constantly working, the heart is working all the time, never resting. It's really quite incredible. And before we get into that general function of the heart, let's talk about the associated blood vessels. So the heart, of course, is the pump. It's the cardio in the cardiovascular system. And then there are three major types of blood vessels: arteries, and then smaller things called arterioles that branch off of that, capillaries, and veins, along with smaller venules that bring blood into the veins. So arteries always carry blood away. I think A for away. It's true of all arteries. A, arteries away. They're carrying blood away from the heart, always in that direction. From there it goes alphabetically. A, C, V. So arteries into these arterioles. They go into the very, very narrow capillaries. That then goes into these things called venules, which go into the veins. And veins always bring blood back towards the heart. Back towards the inside of the heart specifically, the chambers, which we'll be talking about. So the heart has four chambers, four rooms. There are two chambers on top. Each of those is called an atrium. The plural for that is atria. On the bottom, you have then the ventricles. This side in blue, that is the right side of the heart. If you're looking at the screen, you might say, well, that's on my left side. Well, right and left are not from your perspective, they are from the patient's point of view. So imagine this was your heart. This would be your right side, and this would be your left side. So the right and left are always from the patient's point of view. You'll notice that there are these little flaps that are dividing these chambers of the hearts, but also on these passageways, these blood vessels that are leaving the heart. Let's talk a little bit more about those. So first of all, if these blood vessels are leaving the heart, the blood is going away from the heart through these blood vessels here, and underneath it there. Okay. What type of blood vessel would those be if they're going away from the heart? Arteries, capillaries, or veins? If you said arteries, you're exactly right. AA, arteries, away. So here's a more realistic portrayal of the heart with these four chambers listed. Now let's talk about these flaps. So you can see there are these flaps here that divide. One of them divides the right atrium from the right ventricle. Other one divides the left atrium from the left ventricle. These are referred to as the AV, atrioventricular. AV is short for atrioventricular, meaning atria and ventricles between those chambers. On the right side is the right AV valve, and on the left side is the left AV valve. You also want to be familiar with their alternate names. Tricuspid, because it's got three flaps. Here you can only see one of the three flaps, but there's three flaps. And then the bicuspid has two flaps. Also called the mitral valve, because these Catholic bishops have a hat called a mitre, and it's got two sides to it. They're very flat. And when they first were dissecting the heart way, way back, they thought it looked like a bishop's mitre, so they called it the mitral valve. The other flaps are more rounded, kind of like crescent moons, here and here. So they are called the semi, meaning partial, lunar moon valves. So you have pulmonary semilunar. Pulmonary refers to the lungs. That means that blood passing through the pulmonary semilunar valve is destined to go to the lungs. And over here, aortic semilunar valve, that is going through the aorta. Aorta is the biggest artery in the body, whereas here we have our pulmonary arteries going towards the lungs.